at LeadSpace. Hello, and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk about a proven approach to doubling marketing-generated opportunities by design. I'm Bob Strohmeyer. I'm Chief Customer Officer at LeadSpace, and I'm going to walk you through a real-world example of a customer who partnered with LeadSpace to accomplish exactly that, doubling marketing-generated opportunities for sales. Now, this particular customer is a $4 billion SaaS company that's been growing at 20% year over year. So high scale opportunity and high stakes for the business. And the goal here really was funnel optimization for key business units that were underperforming in some important areas. And so accomplishing this optimization of the marketing funnel required a pretty comprehensive effort to align all the data insights and profiles about the accounts and leads around the business, integrating their content and e-commerce systems, integrating all the customer journeys, orchestration, changing the BDR workflows that engage those accounts, driving rich analytics, and creating experiences that map to driving the outcomes that they're looking for, which in this case was a doubling of sales qualified opportunities. And then taking that all the way down to the action layer for the sales organization through CRM integration and integration into the dashboards where the BDR teams live and work day to day and make decisions. So it was an ambitious undertaking, and it really required a holistic way of thinking about the funnel in order to solve for the most essential outcome that would be the proof point for success. So why ultimately did they take on this challenge, and why did they choose to partner with us? Ultimately, they had three really critical challenges they were solving for. One was to drive consistency across the scoring mechanisms that they use to make decisions in engaging leads and opportunities. They had multiple scoring models across different systems. They were not well aligned. It was not clear to them that they were based on the right drivers for sales outcomes. And from their own benchmarks, they were underperforming. So the proof was in the results they'd had to date, and they needed to make a change. They wanted to make a change comprehensively rather than piecemeal. They needed to address those low benchmarks, right? The conversion rates were low and well below standard. And so this was a critical business priority for them to hit their numbers. And essential to solving both of those challenges was to create a score, a fit score, that would be based on the truly differentiated drivers of the funnel outcomes that they're solving for. So historically, fit models and decisions to engage leads were based on a variety of factors, often subjective, and they needed a truly data-driven understanding of the drivers that really brought the outcome they were looking for, which was doubling marketing generated sales qualified opportunities. Now that's a massively ambitious goal, right? But an achievable one. It really started with redefining their ideal customer profile, which again was understood in different ways in different parts of the business. The marketing organization had one concept of the ICP. The BDRs made different decisions in a very different way. Sales reps made decisions also in yet another way. So integrating the teams, importantly, the human beings who make these decisions, together into one team and having a single rubric to make strategic decisions and decide which accounts to go after was essential. And then integrating all of the external data models into a single comprehensive system to allow them to really confidently identify the accounts with the greatest propensity to buy and align the humans in the BDR team to those decision-making workflows so that when those scores come in, when the leads come in and the scores are there, the BDRs really understand what the scores mean and they know what's actionable. So these really became the drivers of the overall project together, the program that we rolled out together, and the foundation for success. This then enabled us to really optimize the funnel at large for that outcome, which is sales has qualified the opportunity to move forward to become a deal. And we took a three-pronged approach to doing that. First was to make sure that we're really targeting those who are showing demand by enriching web forms in real time and confirming that as those leads come in, based on the enriched insights about the lead profile and the account, knowing that that lead is in the ICP for demand targeting. Because if they're in the ICP, we want to qualify them in and move them forward quickly. Now, historically, that process had been very different. There were a variety of perspectives on what made for a qualified lead. And often they were behavioral. And behavioral signals can be great. But if you're waiting for people to exhibit a narrow range of behaviors before engaging them, you could be waiting months or it could never happen. And that's effectively the reality that they were facing. The over-indexing on hitting a few key landing pages, for example, or last interesting moments on the website was slowing down the time to engage in otherwise viable leads who are in the ICP. Leads that should have been auto-qualified in from the outset and engaged right away. So getting all that insight in the moment the lead came in was absolutely critical. Second, again, aligning the people in the BDR team with processes that prioritize these insights so that the BDRs took action immediately on the ideal customers who had come in through the funnel. Simultaneously, actually prioritizing outbound based on discovery of qualified leads and then going out and pursuing those proactively through the BDR team. So stack ranking leads to manage volume, go after those with the greatest type propensity, and essentially engage before they raise their hand on someone else's website. All with the goal of fueling 30% growth year over year in sales qualified opportunities, doubling. So together, this essentially represents finding, creating, and prioritizing closable demand. What does this look like holistically? As I said before, it's a pretty comprehensive effort. First, taking all the first-party data about the profiles for accounts, for contacts, for leads, and opportunities, and ingesting them into the modeling graph, together with the third-party universal graph. So a unification of all of this business's first-party data, profiles about who they're selling to, together with everything that's known from the third-party data sources they're working with, including, but by no means limited to lead space. It's a broad universe. It's all the intelligence that they are currently using or own. Blending that together into a unified graph to really understand in a comprehensive way what the ideal buyer profile is and who specifically is in market. Not just the accounts, but the buying teams, the individuals who make decisions, and the buying centers where those decisions are made. to go out and proactively engage them. Then we put all of that through a modeling engine to score them by propensity to close, identifying the drivers from thousands of signals to give them the ability to generate 60+% of the revenue from 25% of the leads, stack ranking those with the greatest propensity to close and going after them to create a more efficient marketing organization. So this allowed them to make the most of website conversion, improve the quality of form fills, which we all know are typically pretty terrible, make them actionable, give sales full visibility, transparency into the scoring of those opportunities, and align the BDRs and the AEs to the insights that give them the greatest propensity to win. A/B testing, identification of the leads that matter, so that they actually were able to run separate experiments and see, in a really measurable way, the impact of this approach versus the old approach, and prove it out. And then use custom personas and improved lead to account matching to increase the propensity to win. This basically came down to 4 really core use cases in practice. One was to make the most of web conversions, right? So reduce the number of fields we're surfacing on the forms, which significantly increases the odds that people will actually complete the form. Enrich all that firmographic data on the back end, as well as pass in the lead enrichment, the contact enrichment insights on the back end as well, giving the marketing organization a great deal more insight into who they're and who's engaging, and also allowing us to apply a propensity score to that lead for prioritization. Real-time profile enrichment from all those third-party sources on the back end enables that. And then we're using that insight to match those leads to the ideal personas and the scoring. Just a quick view of what this looks like in practice, right? So on the web form, we have all this stuff kind of happening in the back end. To the user, it's as easy as putting in their name, their company, and their email. In practice, if we have a business email, we don't need them to enter the company name. But it's a best practice to ask for the company name for a couple of reasons, right? One is you really want to have a way of validating that if there's a mismatch between the email domain and the company name, you want to identify that by having them volunteer in the company name. But if it is a company email, we can grab all the rest of the company firmographics just from that. 2 is it kind of reduces the creep factor of the data identification on the back end. So by asking them for the company name, it just kind of reduces the perception that we're gathering everything on them from a digital profile. Even though everybody knows how it's done, there's a greater comfort level to entering a little more information yourself. Then matching that lead to a library of personas. We happen to provide a standard library of 79 actionable personas, but you can also create custom personas. And in this case, they did. So we can build out highly tailored personas based on opportunity data, based on the roles and job functions that are actually involved in close won opportunities. So we can, as part of the scoring exercise, also derive from the data the ideal personas in a very customized way, and then prioritize those that are the greatest fit. So it's a true model, in addition to the ability to use a library of fairly standard personas as well. And then further refine all that by department level, by job function, And we can go way beyond the kind of standard identification of persona. Then we fit together product, right? So they're using this solution on a couple of different products. The fit is based on the product and the persona both. So certain personas are a greater fit for one product than another. This solution integrates an understanding of both those things to search employee profiles and job listings for the right people to go after and score them. At the same time, including the persona-based scoring, there is predictive fit scoring on the lead and the account. So at the lead level, being able to identify A's, B's, and C's so that the BDRs can go after the A's and B's and deprioritize the C's and D's. So in real time, as the BDRs are signing in for the day, they're seeing a dashboard stack ranked by propensity to close and focusing on those with the greatest opportunity first. We made some predictions about where this would go. So they were using this across two products. We predicted that we would see some lift in the range of 2.7 to 6% on conversion rates, and that we would see, overall an increase in percentage of conversions of 68.1% total to 48.3%. What were we measuring along the way? Well, we were measuring AQL volume, right? So automatically qualified leads or automation qualified leads. This was something that was wildly underutilized at the outset of the project and became a huge differentiator in performance by accelerating opportunities, which gives the BDR team a competitive edge. Then the MAL rate really being clearly defined, what marketing acceptance really means, measuring the MQO rate, and then ultimately that target objective of doubling sales qualified opportunities is the biggest outcome. But in the pilot, here's what we saw. First of all, they had a variety of priority levels in the leads that came in. And so they had P1s, P2s, and P3s. They only, within this business unit, they only could go after P2s. There was a whole nother business unit that went after P1s. So it was critical not to mix the leads by priority and to focus in on delivering and routing scores that were a match for P2 across two products. And what we saw ultimately, and these are in points, but we saw 15 points lift in AQL to MAL conversion for product one and 5% for product two. 3+ points lift in MQOs, 4 points lift in SQOs, and ultimately a full point and almost 2 points, respectively, in total lift to SQO, which is a massive impact for the business. And this is just for the pilot period. Behind that is a blend of weighting to create a total score, right? So how did we define automated qualified leads? It was a blend of our predictive score plus the persona score that we talked about earlier, together with intent level. Are they actively showing intent? Are they hitting the right pages on the website? Are they engaging in the right behaviors? Are they attending webinars? All those things together created a total score of 100. And you can see that they were each weighted separately to produce those scores. So when something hit these thresholds, becomes automatically qualified and ready to work for the BDR team. scoring models focused in on high fit accounts showing a high propensity to buy, automatically going to AQL. Low fit accounts, but high levels of engagement and the right behaviors can still get to AQL. That's the old model. But we wanted to really accelerate those that were not showing those behaviors early, but had a high propensity to buy. So the single greatest lever for AQL was account fit. Intent scoring really was about using third-party sources as well as first-party data to monitor the target accounts for the right buying signals. And this, of course, became part of the weighting for automatic qualification. And then all of this insight comes together right where the BDRs and AEs are using it the most in Salesforce. So their BDRs have a portal. This is where they decide how they're going to spend their day and what they're going to work next. And you can see within these screens, right, these highlighted areas, the A's, B's showing up for them and ready to work. You can see the intent scores, and you can see these persona scores as well. And this is really essential. It's often the case that there's an attempt to, or a temptation to use a single score for everything. And that makes it very difficult to action on the right leads because you don't really know what the score means. So by breaking these down, the BDRs have the ability to really understand what makes this lead a good opportunity to go work. And they can understand also how to engage. So it becomes much more tactical for the BDRs, which is critical when they need to dig in with an opportunity and move it forward. And here you can also see where in the sales reports, the same is surfaced. So the AEs are seeing the same scoring right within their reports, and this surfaces up to BDR and sales management as well. So we move all this to production over a 9-week period. It's basically about 6 weeks of implementation, 6 to 7 weeks of implementation, at which point we deploy. And throughout that period, there's ongoing user training and enablement. It's a significant effort, right, to retrain an entire BDR organization around these signals, and probably the most important part, because you can put perfect intent scores in front of a BDR team, but if they are not fully trained and enabled to take advantage of them, to use them, then the former behaviors will persist and you don't get the outcome. So that was an essential component, and it remains an ongoing component in the partnership that we prioritize heavily. So at this point, I would love to take any questions from the audience. Okay, we do have a question. So how should a go-to-market team think about funnel optimization? Should you think about it overall or product by product? That's a great question. Typically, there's a crawl, walk, run. And in the kind of crawl phase, you got to pick where you're going to focus. And it can be tempting to say, we want to create a global score. Now, the pros of having a global score is you can immediately kind of put it into practice for everybody. The problem with that is that a global score is going to be a better fit for some cohorts than others. So, for example, if it's for your entire product portfolio, the reality is that any given potential lead or account is going to be a better fit for one product than another. And you're not going to know from the score which one it is. So we strongly recommend a product-specific score whenever possible. And that allows you to really understand what it is you're positioning and what the score means. Scores that are difficult to understand become scores that aren't trusted. And it's very difficult to rally sales behavior around scores they don't trust. So by being more focused and granular, you give people the confidence to act. I have a second question here, which is how do you think about measuring the impact of a scoring tool like LeadSpace? This is really critical. The most essential thing is to ensure that the score is predicting the outcome that you consider success. So in this example we're talking about today, SQOs were the outcome they were solving for. So ensuring that when you build the scoring model, that it's really optimized for that specific outcome. First and foremost, that there's ample representation of that outcome. So we use 2 years of past opportunity data to train it with a healthy representation of SQOs in that data set, as well as non-SQOs to differentiate. That's what fundamentally measured all of the success. So having a very clear business outcome that's represented in your CRM data and training the entire model around that, it becomes a self-measuring and effectively self-optimizing system. If you continue to retrain over time, you create a continuous loop of measurable outcomes trained explicitly against the revenue outcome you're looking for. Okay, I think that appears to be all the questions that we have today. I thank everyone for joining us today, and I welcome any of you to reach out to me directly, bob.strohmeyer@leadspace.com. I would love to answer any questions one-to-one and talk to you more about how we might be able to help you with a similar priority in your business. Thank you all.